Hey, it's your guy Tyrrell back with the interviews. Manchester United dropped their first points under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer at the hands of relegation battlers Burnley. How did they do it? What did Burnley do right? Don't worry, here at the interviews, we've got you covered. So on this edition of the interviews, we're going to briefly break down how Manchester United drew Burnley. So before we get into today's video, don't forget to give our video a thumbs up if you do enjoy it. The bell below does give you daily notifications regarding our organic, unfiltered soccer/footy analysis, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. In today's video, we're briefly going to break down the first half, see why Manchester United really struggled to create chances, then move to the second half, see how Burnley got ahead before Manchester United were able to come back in the final minutes. But first, let's get to the starting lineups. We look at Manchester United, more of a 4-3-3, Lukaku, Rashford, and Mata up front. In midfield, Andreas Pereira, Pogba, and Matic. Then we look to Burnley 4-4-2, Wood and Barnes up front. Out in the wider areas, McNeil and Hendrick. Within midfield, they went with Westwood and Cork. So now let's look to the first half, see how Burnley set up and why Manchester United struggled to create chances in that opening period. So when we look at Manchester United against Burnley, we know how this template of the match is going to go. United are going to be forced to break Burnley down, but it was how they were going to do that, because we've seen in their bigger games against Arsenal, against Spurs, where they've been able to play on the counter-attack and switch to a diamond and allow the pace of their strikers to get in behind the fullbacks. That was successful, but it's always interesting to see how they would break down the inferior opposition, because although they have had more talent and the talent has prevailed, they haven't necessarily played the attacking football that people are labeling Solskjaer with. When we look at this game in particular, they struggled to really cause Burnley problems from open play. Why was that? Burnley in a 4-4-2, pressing from the front. They had the ability to do that because they had the strikers pushing out to the center backs. They had Hendrick and McNeil pushing out into the wider areas, and they would have Cork and Westwood kind of sitting off. If they would look to press Pereira and Pogba, and the spare man here was often Nemanja Matic. And you had to question at some point, when would they step to Matic? They could send Cork, they couldn't send Westwood, but they never really aimed to do that. When they did look to retreat, they would drop off into a more narrow 4-4-2, and when Matic would ever drop in to pick up the ball between the center backs, when they did split, they would have Wood and Barnes sit in front of him, so that it would force Matic to play the ball wide rather than a penetrative pass through the midfield. So that was how Burnley were going about things. It was no real surprise. It was about how United were going to take the game to them, and what we saw in United shape here was it looked like they played Lukaku up front based off the fact that his physicality could possibly trouble me and Tarkowski. But with that being said, nothing really went through him. And then in the wider areas, they had Rashford, who was looking to get 1v1 with Bardsley whenever he could, but he didn't really do a great job there. And you had Mata tucking in from the right-hand side into central positions, which did allow space for Ashley Young to run at Taylor. With that being said, Mata was one of the key players in that opening half, not in terms of his decisiveness in the final third, but he was often picking up the ball in pockets of space either ahead or behind the midfield. He was drifting off, and he often was the player that was getting the ball between the lines and shifting it out into wider areas. He would pick up the ball and shift it out to Rashford. Like I said, we had times where he'd get the ball and switch it out to Ashley Young, but the productivity in the wide areas weren't really good. We had Young getting forward, but his crosses weren't doing well. Rashford was struggling to beat Bardsley 1v1. We had Pogba playing reverse balls into Luke Shaw on the overlap, but his crosses weren't getting through. We had Matic evading both Cork and Westwood and sliding the ball out wide to Young, but even then his cross wasn't getting out. We look at how United were really trying to go about things, and they were getting into those wide areas, but they weren't really offering much. And when Mata would pick up the ball in those central zones, he wasn't really looking to play that final pass in behind the defense for Lukaku, in behind for Rashford. So that was how United were kind of going about things. We did see at one point in that first half where you had Matic shifting out into the wider area, you had Pereira deeper, you had Pogba higher, Mata also higher. You had Rashford and Lukaku in central zone so that they could have the width through Shaw and Young, but even that wasn't working for Manchester United. They were struggling to create chances, and there were only two notable chances in the first half, one for each side. The first one for Burnley, we saw Heaton clip the ball out to Wood, and Jones towered towered over him, which allowed Barnes to get the ball and run at Lindelof, and he fired a low shot at De Gea. The other opportunity for United saw Hendrick dispossessed in a wider zone by Pogba, and what that did was that it sprang Rashford to play the ball into Lukaku, running in between me and Tarkowski, and as he was able to hold him off, Rashford continued his run ahead of Bardsley, and Lukaku played it into him 1v1 with Heaton, but he guided his shot wide from point blank range, and he has to score there. So when you look at United and you look at how this game was going, Burnley had their shape set. They were going to drop off if they weren't pressing from the front in two banks of four. Mata was finding space between the lines. United were playing the balls out into wide areas, and they were able to get good opportunities there, but the crossing was poor. They weren't getting it behind the Burnley backline. So now we have to look to the second half, see what changes United would make, and how Burnley were able to take the lead before United were able to come back in the second half. The second half saw more of a United onslaught, but it didn't really see them get in behind the Burnley backline. As we saw in the opening stages, we had Mata finding a loose ball and firing a shot on goal. We had Pogba picking up the ball from half, driving forward, no one closing him down, and he slides it to Rashford, and he was able to get a shot off. We eventually saw Mata evade a few challenges and then lay it off to Rashford, and he was also able to fire another shot on goal that he didn't push away. But for United, it was more about being direct, and that was how they kind of created some of their better chances. But even before we get to that, we have to say that Burnley did take the lead, and the way they did get the opening goal was an indictment on how United were very comfortable playing on the back, and finally Burnley were able to apply that press. We see the center backs pushed out. You have Wood and you have Barnes stepping to them. This time you have Pereira pushing back, and with Pereira pushing back, we finally see Jack Cork step to him, and Cork steps to him and dispossesses him, and as he wins the ball in that midfield right ahead of the 18-yard box, we have Barnes sliding in, and with Barnes sliding in, the ball is played into him, and he's able to fire a rocket past De Gea. That was how they were able to go ahead, and that kind of shows how the match was going. United got their best chances, or they got into dangerous positions off Burnley mistakes, and now Burnley was able to pounce on a United mistake and take the lead. When we get back to United, a lot of their best moments did stem from direct plays. We had Ashley Young clip the diagonal out to Luke Shaw, who pushed forward, and he pulled the ball back for Pogba, who wasn't closed down, and he was able to fire a shot on goal that was pushed away. We had Pogba from a deeper position clip the ball into Lukaku, and he was able to flick it on to Mata, who broke ahead of Taylor with Heaton coming out, but he was unable to get a shot on goal because Taylor did intervene. United eventually did make a change. They brought on Lingard for Pereira, which did see Mata move to a deeper role in the midfield, and now the way that it was set up was that you had Lingard, we had Rashford, who was playing a bit closer to Lukaku, and you could have Luke Shaw push forward, and Lingard was operating more in a central position from the right hand side as we expected. Where there he was looking to get the ball between the lines, and he was looking to make darting runs ahead of the backline, which we didn't get from Juan Mata. But again, United's chances still stemmed from them playing it out from deeper positions and trying to get involved. We had Ashley Young step forward on one occasion. He was able to get ahead of McNeil, deliver a cross to the near post, and Lukaku guided it off Tarkowski, and it forced Heaton to a save. But that was how they were going about things. They were getting crosses in. They were playing a bit more direct. We saw Pogba later on clip a ball into the box, also from a deeper left position, and we had Rashford break him behind, but he was pushed off. He didn't get that first touch well, and Heaton was able to pick it up. Eventually, we saw Alexis Sanchez come on. He replaced Lukaku, and we did see Rashford move to a central role, but that again didn't change much. As I said, you have a narrow midfield. You have Mata and Pogba in those zones. You're able to push Young out and stretch the pitch with the fullbacks, but United weren't really forcing Heaton into many saves in the sense that they were getting him behind me and Tarkowski, who were comfortable dealing with the crosses from wide areas despite a few nervy moments. Then Burnley take the lead. Bard is able to pick up on a loose ball after Goodmanson did replace McNeil, and he was able to slide the ball out to Goodmanson. And when he slides the ball out to Goodmanson, what we do see there is we have two markers in Matic coming across. And what happens now is that with Goodmanson on the ball, you have the run of Barnes pulling out both center backs, which shouldn't happen. They both shouldn't be going to him, which leaves Wood free and Ashley Young unable to get across in time. And with Lindelof getting sucked in, now Wood is able to nod a point-blank header past the keeper. From that point, you think, okay, how is United going to get back into the game? Well, they didn't do anything spectacular. They got the penalty shout, which it was a penalty. Hendrick pulled back Lingard. Pogba eventually got a shot on goal in the 89th minute, 90th minute, forcing it into a save, and then the equalizing goal late into the game in stoppage time. It was stemming from, again, a direct play, Young clipping the ball into the box, and we had Alexis Sanchez who got free in the box to nod it from point blank range. He didn't save it, and Lindelof was able to tap it in. But when you break things down as a whole, Burnley's shape was good because United struggled to get in behind them. They never really got any clear-cut opportunities against Heaton. They did get chances where they did break in behind the Rashford chance from a mistake, but besides that, a lot of their efforts were shots from distance, a few crosses that did lead to a moment, more so that Tarkowski one that forced you into a big save. But besides that, they didn't create enough chances given their territorial dominance, and it didn't really look like they fully had control of the game. Was Burnley were comfortable without the ball. They were clearing chances in the box, and they were doing a great job, and they scored 2 great goals. And this will feel like Sean Dyche really did lose points here because they were up 2 goals at Old Trafford with 9 minutes to go, whereas United got a lifeline from the penalty and from a last gasp effort where it looked like Burnley tired in the dying moments. But let me know what you guys think. Was this more about United rescuing a point, or did they fully deserve it? And what about Burnley? Will they stay up this season? Will they get relegated? And what about United? Are they still in the hunt for the top 4? Who could stop them from this unbeaten run? Will anyone do it this season? Meet me in the comments below. Don't forget I upload videos every day, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And that was your daily dose of the interviews.